Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to this beautiful Mercedes S320 from 1994. So if you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. I really hope you enjoy it. And if you like this kind of content with the occasional car review and my own cars, a 1971 MG Midget and a beautiful 2011 Mercedes CL500, it'd be great to have you as a subscriber. So in this video, we're going to be taking a look around this fantastic 1994 S320 from Mercedes-Benz. This really is the pinnacle of Mercedes engineering. There was no expense spared on the development of this car, which is rumoured to exceed over $1 billion in development costs, which is absolutely astonishing. And when we get into the details, you'll see where so much of that development money has gone with some of the features on this car and how they're still relevant in 2021. So in this video, we're going to take a look around the outside of the car. We're going to take a detailed look at the interior, and then we're going to get it out on the road and see what it's like to drive. So let's get going. So those of us that were around in the 90s and were into cars will immediately recognize this striking face of the W140 S-Class. Coming around the side, we see this two-tone kind of effect with the chrome trim in between. This was quite a feature of Mercedes cars from this generation. This particular car is in an interesting color. It's called blue black. It's difficult to see, but it actually looks more like a grayish color in the light. And it's got a lighter gray trim along the lower half of the car there with chrome trim in between. It's got these very classic Mercedes alloy wheels with very high profile tires, 60 profile, which is almost unheard of today, but would have added to the ride quality of this amazing car. You can see how the doors and everything fit so flush along here, which is quite a contrast from other cars of a similar era and vintage. We'll see later that there's some very interesting features in these door handles, which I'll get to in a minute. This, as you can see from the shorter back door, is the short wheelbase version. That's not to take anything away from it because it really is still very spacious in the back. Coming round to the rear, got those kind of traditional diagonally shaped rear light cluster there with the reversing lights forming that bar along the back. The S320 badging there. We'll come on to these little things in a minute. That's very interesting. Very imposing vehicle. I mean, really is such a statement. This was the flagship car of Mercedes in the 90s, and basically that means it was the flagship car, full stop. They used to call it the poor man's Rolls-Royce, but I think that's doing a bit of an injustice, because I think in its own way this car is just as special as a Rolls-Royce, but it's more geared towards the technology and the features, and I think this really showcased a number of technologies which are still in use in cars today, remarkably, and we'll go through some of those when we get into the inside. Opening the boot reveals one of the first over-engineered features. Pushing the button reveals this handle which pops out to avoid you having to get your hands on the paintwork. Not a huge boot compared to modern cars perhaps, but here is the petrol tank is located here, and it actually has a capacity of 100 litres, which gives this an incredible range, as you can imagine. And when you shut the boot, the handle pops away and the soft close mechanism just pulls the boot shut. Have a quick look under the bonnet. Always tricky to do this one-handed. There we go. And lifting the bonnet reveals the 3.2 litre straight six engine This is the 104 engine and has a power rating of about 230 horsepower and about 350 Newton meters. So it's not huge by today's standards, and obviously this is a heavy car, so you know, performance isn't stellar, but it will still get you to 100 k's in approximately 7 seconds. That's what the book says. One of the interesting things that this car has, it has a very rare option, and this is the hydraulic self-leveling suspension for the rear. So this was kind of a precursor to the ABC system. So similar hydraulic system with high pressure hydraulics controlling the struts, but just on the rear. Okay, let's take a look in the interior of this car. So this car's got this beautiful grey upholstery, still in really good condition, despite the car being nearly, well, 27, nearly 30 years old, still in amazing condition. It's just a testament to the build quality that was put into this car. You see you've got beautiful ruched leather here, electric seat controls with 3 memory settings, and an interesting, you've got an upper and lower bolster for the seats. You can see that just moves the top part of the seat, and the bottom switch moves the whole seat backwards and forwards. As climbing in, we're faced with a beautiful leather rimmed steering wheel. It's got airbags, which is great, and very clear dials here. I mean, it is really the last generation before screens and infotainment systems started to become popular. You've got your light switch here and your headlamp leveling system here, which is obviously still manual in this car. You've got a reach and rake control for your steering wheel down here. Again, that was an unusual feature back in 1994. Those of us that drive Mercedes from later generations will recognize the combined windscreen wiper and indicator stalk and the cruise control stalk there. Very familiar. Moving across, we've got our air conditioning vents, and you'll notice that these are electrically operated, so there's no physical link between this control and the vent on the far side. So this would be controlling a potentiometer here, which would link to a motor or stepper motor in the vent itself. Obviously highly over-engineered, but beautifully made. You've got controls here to adjust the individual temperatures of these 2 units, just to make them slightly warmer or slightly colder. Underneath here we have a small storage unit. Some models had a phone system in there, but that's just for storage. Coming down, we've got our heated rear lights, central locking and hazard indicators. Very comprehensive air conditioning controls here, with a 13-speaker stereo system. We have a 4-speed automatic gearbox here with a sport and economy setting, which was a new feature. It allowed the car to start off in first when you were starting off in up hills, for example, which improved performance. This is your electric wing mirror control, which also has electric control of the rear view mirror, which is quite extraordinary. Pushing that upwards and downwards, left and right, actually adjusts the rear view mirror left and right and up and down. Again, so many of these features on these cars don't work nowadays because they just get broken or they wear out, whereas this one, it's an absolutely mint example. Everything works. You have your window control switches here. This is the control to lower the headrests. I think you have to put them up manually. What an inconvenience that is, but that will drop them automatically from a switch here. Underneath we have a storage cubby, got the second key there with a cover over there. This, I think in other models, had the phone handset in it, if you had that option. Up above we have all the usual reading lights, and we have a electric powered sunroof, which is all working perfectly. So really beautifully appointed in here. I mean, no expense spared on the materials, the quality, the build really is absolutely superb. This car's done 181,000 kilometers, but it really isn't about the kilometers. There are examples that have done half this, which are in very poor condition, but if these have been looked after, they can have done many more kilometers and still be fantastically reliable and luxurious cars. Quickly hopping into the back, again beautifully finished doors, wood trim. This one doesn't have electric seats. I think it was only the long wheelbase version which had adjustable seats in the rear, which obviously was a amazingly luxurious feature. Still plenty of room in the back, even though this is the short wheelbase version. You've got your air conditioning vents there. Really plenty of space for 4 people or even 5. Over the back here we have a, oh, and it still has the original first aid kit. I wouldn't be using that in a hurry. Got a central armrest here which folds down. Elasticated seat back pocket, and if we look up here we have illuminated vanity mirror there. One for each side. So just a couple of other features of note. Soft closed doors all round, including the boot. Another very interesting feature is when you lock the car, you get a red flashing light to show that it's locked, and a green light to show that it's open. Really useful because there's only a single button on the key. It's got one of these fold out keys, but there's only a single button, so it's very difficult to know whether it's locked or open, but Mercedes have thought of that and put lights in the door handle there. So these little features here, they look like little aerials, but what they are is the technology that was used before Parktronic was brought in, which I think was probably in the next year model, where the ultrasonic park sensors were introduced. This is kind of 2 little antenna poles that extend out of here, one each side, will indicate when you're reversing where the rear of the car is. Very useful, just again really ingenious idea before the Parktronic system was introduced. Okay, let's get this car out on the road and see what it's like to drive. So starting up the S320. And it's good that the air conditioning works really well because it is hot today. It's warm anyway, it's humid. Slipping it into drive, release the foot brake, and away we go. Look, it's a heavy car. It's 2.1 tons or something. This version's only got the 6-cylinder, so only about 230 horsepower. But hey, getting from 0 to 100 fast is not the purpose of this car. It's about getting there in absolute luxury, and I have no idea where I'm going. The steering in typical S-Class fashion is pretty light. Don't get a huge amount of feel back from it, but again, you know, that's not really the point. We're looking at luxurious driving experience rather than anything crazy sporty. Let's put it into reverse and see those little spikes come up the back. Very helpful. If you put your foot down, it will get going, not in a hugely fast way, but it certainly is not ridiculously overweight and sluggish. Straight six makes a really nice sound. Kind of reminds me of the straight six in the legendary Gullwing. Obviously, you know, it would have been derived from that engine, similar kind of sound. But it's not a step down really to have the straight six instead of the V8. I mean, the straight six, very, very smooth, simpler to work on. The engine bay isn't so cramped, you don't have to struggle to get to things. I can't imagine what the V12 would have been like. But really, with this kind of car, this kind of vintage, it's all about the condition. It's all about what works and what doesn't work. This particular example is pretty much flawless. Everything is working, and that's really unusual. More modern versions of the S-Class, they do benefit from having engines with higher power, higher torque, and that does improve the drivability, but this is not sluggish by any means, perfectly adequate. These seats, you know, by modern standards, they're reasonably comfortable, quite supportive. You've got a lot of adjustments, which is the good thing. Don't think this one has any lumbar controls, but hey, it's that's a luxury really. But yeah, very comfortable driving position. You can adjust everything that you need to get it exactly right. You've got the steering wheel adjustment as well. So you really can tailor the driving position exactly to what you need. And you know, if you're doing long drives in this, which is really what it's designed for, you know, you want that comfort and to be able to adjust your driving position just right. And yeah, amazing technology for a car that's nearly 30 years old. So those of you who've been with the channel for a while will remember that I did a video on my SL55, crazy features of my SL55. I'll link it up here, but one of those features was this power rear view mirror. Now, I hadn't seen that before in a car, and it was an incredible feature on the SL, which was a 2002 car. So to see this on a 1994 car is quite extraordinary, really. The only difference with the SL is that you could move it by hand and it wouldn't damage it. You could move it by hand and it would still be able to reposition itself even if you had moved it by hand, whereas this one, if you move them by hand, they get broken very easily. So quick tip, don't try and move this by hand, always use the electrical control. Apparently Mercedes engineers were considering some crazy engine options for this car because they were in a battle with BMW, as they obviously still are today, and they wanted to outdo BMW's new V12, which had kind of taken them by surprise a little bit. And so I understand they were actually considering such options as a W16 for this car, or even a W18. I mean, absolutely insane. If one of those engines had been put in this car, how they would have got it in the engine bay, I do not know, but extraordinary. That was what it was like in those days. Apparently this car was the last of the Mercedes cars where they basically said to the engineers, just do whatever you have to do. Cost no issue, just do what's necessary to make the best car. So the car that followed this, which is the W220 S-Class, is really not that well remembered, and I think that was a result of Mercedes being more driven by budgeting and marketing rather than pure engineering. Obviously they've redeemed themselves since then, but yeah, the W140 really was the last of the generation of the engineers designing their cars. The ride quality is great. I mean, that's what the S-Class is legendary for. You feel so insulated from the outside. You really do arrive at your destination almost more refreshed than when you left. And this car is designed for doing long cross-country trips, European grand tours, and that's exactly what you want. So this car will be up for sale at Unique Motor Garage. Check out the link below to the website. If you're in the market for one of these classic S-Class, you're not going to find a better example of a W140 in a hurry. This really has the kind of condition that you really want, everything working. And that's really the problem with these cars, is they do have so much technology, and it's getting old now that if things don't work, they're going to be hard to fix, whereas here everything works. So check out the link below, and you can, if you're interested in this car, get in touch with Phil, and I'm sure I'd be only too happy to help. So I really hope you enjoyed this video with this beautiful W140 S320 from 1994. I think you'll agree it's an absolutely beautiful car, and this in particular is a very special example. Everything works, it's in absolutely beautiful condition, and will go on for many years to come. Very reliable, I'm sure it will be, and that straight six will give you all the performance you need without the complexity of the V8 or the V12. Anyway, so let me know in the comments what you think of this beautiful car. It's interesting that I now own a CL 500, which is the coupe version of the S-Class, and in fact it was in this generation that the CL split off from the original S-Class, and so my car has a lot of features that this car had when it first came out, like the double glazed windows and the soft closed doors. And so you can see that heritage of Mercedes flowing through even to cars today. So thanks very much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, don't forget to smash that like. It'd be great to have you as a subscriber, and hit that notification bell. You can follow me on Instagram down here, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye for now.